Hello everybody, I'm Susan Crawford. I'm running for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. I'm very happy to be here in Shawano this evening. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about this very important election. I want to make it clear this election is on April 1st. We're not on this upcoming November ballot. We are getting started now because the stakes are so high. And this race is going to determine the majority on our state Supreme Court. Again, just as it did with Janet Protasewicz's race last year. And that means that our constitutional rights are at stake, our free elections, right to vote, safety of our communities, all those issues are on the table once again with this election. And unfortunately, I do have an opponent who is a far-right politician who wants to take us backwards. Brad Schimmel. Some of you might remember his name. He was an attorney general for a while in Wisconsin for a single term. Voters sent him home. So I want to make sure that once again, we send Brad Schimmel back home and stop him from getting on the Supreme Court. Are you gonna help me do that?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background and what I've worked for during my career, and hope that'll give you a sense of what I would be like as a justice on our Supreme Court. So I grew up in Chippewa Falls. I was one of 4 kids. My dad was an engineer, got his degree from UW-Madison on the GI Bill after he served in Korea. My mom is from Greene County, Monroe, Wisconsin, 3rd generation Wisconsinite. My great-grandfather started a barber shop on the square in Monroe, Wisconsin back in the 1860s. So my family has some deep roots in Wisconsin. But my mom and dad raised me and my 2 brothers and sister to work hard, watch out for each other, and to give back to our community. And my husband Sean and I raised our own 2 kids with those same values, tried to. My kids are now grown-ups, they're young adults, and I'm very proud of them. And when Sean and I were raising them when they were little, we always, our top priority was always keeping them safe. I just really think that every kid in Wisconsin deserves to grow up in a safe community. So that's something really been a guiding light in my career. And I started out as a prosecutor at the Wisconsin Department of Justice, handling felony cases, the toughest cases in our state Supreme Court and in our Court of Appeals. So I argued my first case in front of the Wisconsin Supreme Court back in 1998. Our Chief Justice at that time was Shirley Abrahamson. You might remember her. She was a nationally recognized jurist, just an amazing justice on the court. And I felt at that time when I was appearing in front of the court that even though there were, different points of view and some different philosophies among the justices, that they were just all working hard to get it right. They asked us tough questions, but the justices treated each other and they treated the attorneys in front of them with respect, just trying to get it right. And that was inspiring to me as a young prosecutor. And I just worked hard to do justice, hold people accountable if they harm the community, and make sure that the rights of the crime victims were honored in the process. Then I had the opportunity after Jim Doyle, who had hired me at the Department of Justice when he was Attorney General. After he was elected governor, I had a chance to serve in his administration in a number of different roles, helping to lead state agencies, and ultimately was chief legal counsel in the governor's office. So broad responsibility for making sure, that our state government enforced our laws fairly and equally, across the state. Then we had an election in 2010, and the governor's office changed hands. Scott Walker came in. That was my cue to leave state government. So I joined a law firm in Madison and continued to work in our courts to protect the rights of Wisconsinites. And within the space of about 8 weeks, I went from working for the governor to suing the governor, the new governor coming in. I represented Madison teachers in the legal fight against Act 10. fight that went on for some years. I also did work with the League of Women Voters to protect our voting rights. And I represented Planned Parenthood of Wisconsin and their doctors to make sure they could deliver healthcare services, including abortions. Abortion services are healthcare to women without having to worry about losing their medical license or being prosecuted for it. So that was important work that I did. But during that time, often enough, we would win favorable rulings, we would win protections of people's rights in front of our circuit courts, and then end up in front of a Wisconsin Supreme Court, which by then was dominated by very conservative right-wing majority, and would see those rights get knocked back down again. So I decided to change course, and in 2018 I ran for judge in Dane County and won a contested election. I've been a judge ever since, and I work hard now every day to make sure I'm getting the facts right, because you know the truth is really important in our courts especially, but throughout our government, and to apply the law fairly and impartially and uphold the rights that we have under our Constitution and under our laws. Because I want everybody that comes through my courtroom to leave, even if they lose, whether they win or lose, but I want them to leave my courtroom feeling they've been heard and treated with respect. So that's something I really value. I believe we have a majority of justices on the Supreme Court that take that same approach to the law. They're really trying to get it right, to make sure that they've got the truth of the matter, they get the facts right, and that they are using the law to protect Wisconsinites. So I want to make sure we keep it that way, that we keep a Supreme Court that is watching out for our rights and protecting our citizens, protecting our environment, protecting our kids. Now, my opponent wants to take us backwards. He has spent the better part of his career working on taking rights away from Wisconsinites, unfortunately. He served as the Attorney General back when Scott Walker was governor from 2014 to 2018. Once referred to himself as Scott Walker's bag man. He worked to take workers' rights away from them. He worked to restrict women's access to reproductive health care services. He hired a right-wing attorney into a state job at DOJ who was secretly working with conservative groups throughout the country to overturn Roe versus Wade. There was a big story about that in the New York Times a few months ago. And he was also not so good with public safety. You might remember that there were something like 6,000 untested sexual assault kits that Brad Schimmel failed to get tested. The department had gotten the funding for it. It wasn't an issue of money, it was an issue of prioritization and making sure the work got done, and he failed to do it. He might have been too busy running around the state passing out those gold coins with his name on them that you paid for. So he is now a judge. He was appointed to the Waukesha County Circuit Court by Scott Walker after they both lost re-election in 2018, in that window that they had before they had to leave office. And as a judge, he has continued to behave like a partisan politician. He has participated in fundraisers for Republican candidates for office. He has attended Trump rallies. He has publicly endorsed Donald Trump. And he wants to bring a far-right partisan agenda to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. So I am running this race to make sure that does not happen. So are you with me? Are we gonna do it? I know everybody's very focused and working really hard on this November election that is just a couple short weeks away. I think 20 days away at this point, right? The countdown has begun. I know folks are working hard on that election. But what I'm asking you to do right now is just remember my name. Remember this one is coming up soon, April 1st, no fooling. That's how you're gonna remember that. And help me start getting the word out. That this is going to be a really important election and that we have to win it to protect all of our rights. So again, I'm really happy to be here tonight. Thank you for the time and attention, and I also want to say if anybody wants a selfie, wants a picture with me, happy to have you take some pictures, and feel free to share them as much as you like. But help me win this race. Let's go get them, Wisconsin. All right.